again with another video. So last week, July 30th, was my 1 year anniversary in Germany. And I wanted to talk to you guys about all the things I learned since moving to Germany. I think I only have 5 things, but I always say it's going to be a short video, and then it's not. So the very first thing I have learned since moving to Germany is the metric system. So I am not a mathlete, a super person who could do mental math that easily, but I have had to get used to, adjust to / learn the metric system. And so when I first moved in here, I had nothing. I had 2 suitcases, I had no furniture, and for those of you who don't know, for a lot of German apartments, it's standard to not have appliances. So you don't have a fridge, you don't have a washer, you don't have a dryer. Some places don't even have a kitchen, but I was fortunate enough I had a stove, but I didn't have a closet. Like in Germany, closets aren't standard, so you have to like buy your own closet. So I didn't have any furniture. And so when I went to the furniture store, I didn't have a bed. It was like, it's not king for bedding. It's not king, queen, full twin size bedding. It's all centimeters. It's like 200 by 200 centimeters. And I'm like, how big is that? It's like, I don't know how big that is. Like, I don't know. And even looking for closets, like, oh, this closet is 300 centimeters by blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, don't know how big that is. And so it took me like 6 months to understand that 100 centimeters is 1 meter. Okay. And so for example, my closet is 3 meters long, which is about like 9 feet long. Right? So like, it took me a minute, but doing all the shopping is like everything is in centimeters, everything. And so I had to learn just how to like quickly gauge how big something is. Or even like my house is square meters, not square feet, right? So like, how many meters is your house? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So it just took me a while. I am glad I have learned like kilometers, like how many kilometers fit into a mile, like, you know, I'm glad I did take the time to learn the metric system, because shopping for stuff is just much easier because I can conceptualize sizing. I'm not perfect by any. I keep clearing my throat because I'm recovering from illness. Another thing I have learned, the second thing that I have learned is how to drive a stick. So coming to Germany, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna need my car because Europe has great public transportation. But then where I ended up getting my job is in a more rural area where you 100% needed a car. So basically I didn't want to be stuck paying 2 car payments. So I had to buy a car cash, and the cheapest cars are the manuals. So I bought a car not knowing how to drive it, and a friend of a friend, an older German man, taught me how to drive a stick in like 2 weekends, 6 weeks apart, for like an hour and a half a day. So like 4 days, maybe 5 hours, taught me how to drive a stick. So I had never driven a stick before. My mom had several stick cars or manual transmission cars, but I was too young. Like, I never drove them. You know, I wasn't a teenager, I was a child at that time. So I remember my very first day driving to work. I went to work 2 hours early just so there was like nobody on the roads. The stalling, the jerking, like not shifting at the wrong times. Like, I feel like I could go to space. Like, after like learning how to drive a manual, I feel like I could be a scientist. Like, I feel like I could do anything. After that, like, I feel like I could do anything. I could be a dentist. I could be an astronaut. I could be an actress. I feel like that, learning how to drive a manual, a stick shift, when the other person, like the German man who taught me, his English is not that good. He taught me in like 4 days how to do it, And I was successful, and every day I drive to work and I drive around in my stick car, my manual transmission. And I haven't gotten into an accident or hurt anybody. That's a miracle. I don't know about you. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you have randomly had to try and drive a manual and you're like, I don't know how to do this. And also the driving with the manual is like you have to feel the engine of the car. Like, it's just way more involved. It's not like a quickie, like, it's not an automatic, basically. So I'm rambling, but that's the second thing I learned is how to drive a manual. The third thing I learned was about purchasing power and exchange rates. So for this one, I'm hoping I can like put up more pictures. Like, for example, because of all of the uncertainty with American politics, and of course the uncertainty politically equals uncertainty economically, which means that people don't have as much faith in the U.S. Fortune 500 companies, as much faith in the U.S. dollar as they did before. So right now, the euro is stronger than the dollar. So it's like for every 1 euro, it's like $1.16, $1.17. And so when I first moved to Europe, there was all these like whisperings like living in Europe is cheaper. And I'm like, is it though? Like, I'm not really sure. It took me a while to understand purchasing power and how like the economy plays into your ability to have purchasing power and then exchange rates. So I'm going to give an example. So like I mentioned earlier, when you live in Germany, it's not standard for you to have appliances. Even as a renter, like it's not standard that you'll have a washer and dryer, that you'll have a refrigerator. And so when I signed my lease, one of the very first things I did was go to Saturn, which is like the German Best Buy, and look at refrigerators and washers. I tried to find a scratch and dent place. It was just like easier just to go get it new. So for my brand new German washer, it was after delivery and taxes, it was, let's just round up, 370 euros. Okay, 370 euros. At that time, the exchange rate was better. So for like every 1 euro, it was like $1.08, right? It's not as high as it is now. So maybe it was let's say 400 USD. I'm gonna go to bestbuy.com right now and hopefully show some stuff of like how much one washer costs in America. I promise you it's not 400 USD. I'm pretty sure you're pushing at least 1,750 minimum for a brand new digital, because my dial is digital washer. And so it's like, although the euro is stronger than the dollar, within Europe, I still have a stronger purchasing power because the cost of living is lower. Does that make sense? Is the mathing? I said I'm not a mathematician, but I hope the math is mathing. I'll give you another example. When it was time for me to buy my refrigerator, well, I bought the washer and refrigerator at the same time. I think the refrigerator was way more expensive. The refrigerator, I think, was, I want to say 800 euros. Let's just say 800 because I can't really remember. And it is half the size of a US fridge, so that is something to take into account. But I'm gonna pull up something from Best Buy, like the average, like a basic model refrigerator. It's probably not gonna run you $1,000. It's probably gonna run you more over that. Excuse me. So when I started purchasing, and these are brand new appliances, right? These are not used. I didn't use layaway. I paid up front, right? I didn't have to use a credit card, thank God. But I realized, I have a stronger purchasing power, although the euro is stronger than the dollar. I hope this is making sense. And then also, I think that's partly because of Germany's economy. Germany does manufacture a lot of their own stuff, like cars, appliances, refrigerators. So all the appliances in my house are German made, which is also why it was cheap. So I think like if I tried to get a Samsung or an LG washer and dryer, I think it would have been way more expensive because it would have been imported, right? So just having a basic understanding of like purchasing power and exchange rates and like how they matter, and like just understanding like at which particular times do I have a stronger purchasing power. And then there is a conversation that I see a line that like people are retiring in the States, selling everything, and then moving somewhere where the US dollar is stronger than their local currency, like somewhere in South America or somewhere in South Asia, for example, and living there because they have a greater purchasing power because of the exchange rates and the cost of living is so low where they're at. The fourth point, I think I said I had 5, I think I have 4 points, is how to live. So I think that there's so much emotions and psychological things that happen to you when you move abroad. You don't always know like the magnitude of the impact. Like, you don't know how much you're impacted by your decision until like after the fact, right? So as I'm looking back on the year and just going to meet other Europeans, meeting other Germans, like seeing how other people live, I question is like, have I ever lived? Like, have I been living this whole time? I'm not sure that I have. I was having a conversation with a friend, and they were saying that their German neighbors have time to have a garden. They have time to do hobbies. And like that is their lifestyle. And they were saying that how that's what they're envious of. Not that they have a physical garden, but they have time to have a garden. They have time for going to walks at 3 p.m. every day. They have time to spend with their family and friends and their pets. Like, me and this friend are both American, and we both live in Europe, but just in different cities. And that conversation really stuck with me because I was like pro hustle culture, pro workaholic, and not even in a pretentious way, like I'm better than you because I work hard, but it's more like, oh, this is the standard. This is what I have to do to make it. So I'm going to meet that standard. I definitely think Black excellence plays a part into that. I'm from Atlanta, so hustle culture is like a part of the culture there. And I also didn't want to be a burden to my family, right? So I see everybody else working hard. So like, I'm not going to be an exception. I'm also going to grow up and work hard and follow in the footsteps of those who came before me. But there just seems to be such a relaxedness around life. Not that life isn't serious, but that life needs to be enjoyed like it's a piece of cake or like it's ice cream, that it's something that's going to melt away if you don't savor it. And I think that living in Europe and like talking to Europeans and people who like, not on like Instagram or like TikTok or like through an app, whereas like I'm like lusting after the highlight reels of their life, but it's like, oh, we live in the same village. I see you. I see how you live. It's like there's an intimacy there of just like, oh my goodness, this is how my neighbors are living, and this is like their values, and this is how they think about time off. This is how they think about family. This is how they think about friends, and like this is how they cherish their life. And it's not that work isn't important, but it's not like the center of their life. And I know a lot of Americans talk about it. But I think for me it's a different thing living it. And like I can see how other people are living, and just it helps me like, analyze my own life. I'm like, am I living? Am I living? And like what are the type of things I'm aspiring to attain, aspiring to like the legacy I want to leave. Like it just really challenged me to think about my life in just like a different way. And I really not sure I would have gotten that. I will say, when I moved from New York to Washington State a few years ago, there was another shift of like other people living. Washington is very like frugal, like we're gonna go to thrift shops, we're not gonna buy anything new, we're gonna go on hikes, we're gonna like do minimalism. Like it was also like a different vibe change from New York to Washington. And so I would say like Washington was kind of like the beginning of like, I see mostly old people in Washington with gardens and stuff like that, but just like, you don't have to keep up with the Joneses. You don't have to do this. Like, you can live cheaply. You can do this. You can eat organic food. You can go to a community garden. Didn't know what that was. You know, like, you can just live in community in a different way without spending a lot of money. Right? I definitely feel like I'm belaboring this point. I definitely feel like I'm ranting. I hope I'm getting my point across. Is like, one of the things I learned in Germany is how to live and what it means to live a good life. And then a good life, it doesn't mean it's filled with things. And a good life doesn't mean you're at the top of the corporate ladder. I wanted to be a corporate girly. So maybe I want to be a corporate girl. That's who I thought I was going to be. And that's how I thought my life was going to play out. You don't have to have everything on your checklist to live a good life. In fact, less is more. Less things to worry about, less people to please, less things on your conscience. So I'm not sure if I'm making sense or not. I hope it's getting there to you. So to quickly recap, I learned the metric system, how to drive a stick, the purchasing power, exchange rates, and then how to live. So that's my quick video. I hope you guys are having a great summer. I'm sorry I'm like coughing and sneezing, like I'm still kind of like recovering from illness. And